You are now listening to the Dad Rules Podcast with your hosts, Mario E. and Kid.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Dad Rules Podcast, where we help you dad better. I'm one of your hosts, Mario E. and Kid. What's going on?
Not much. Glad to be here. What kind of topic you got today?
All right, so today we're going to talk about you reap what you sow. I think everybody's heard that before, so we'll go ahead and get started into that. So I'll start off today. So we know what that means. You reap what you sow. Basically, what that means is eventually you must face the consequences of your actions. Right. So one of the things I kind of want to start off with, that our entire life is about decisions. In fact, some people have said that, it's the sum total of our decisions. That's what our life is. You decide if you're going to be nice to someone. You decide, what young lady you're going to talk to, what young man you're going to talk to. You decide if you're going to, eat a cheeseburger or if you're going to try to eat healthy and eat some salad, all those different things. And they all have an impact on our lives. So I think all of us by now, unless you've been living under a rock, you've heard about, what transpired between Will Smith and Chris Rock a couple of weeks ago. And I thought it would be a good idea for us to talk about that just from the perspective, to start off with, from a father's perspective. And when I think about, you reap what you sow, I think about the three people involved in that. I think about Chris Rock, I think about Will Smith, and I think about Jada Pinkett Smith as well in that whole situation. And, I think about those three folks, and, I'm not here to cast blame on any one person and say, hey, this person was wrong and they're totally wrong. I think all three people, it's a learning experience for all three of them, the way I see it. And as I'm raising my children, my kids, and, we're talking about this from a dad's perspective, I have some thoughts on if you're a father of one of those three types of individuals, how to better help your kids in those situations. So first I'll go with Chris, from looking at it from the Chris Rock perspective. Chris Rock, we all know he's a comedian, very funny comedian. And, he gets paid to tell jokes and to be funny. And sometimes things can sting as a comedian. Sometimes, it can be, filled with a whole lot of laughter. Yeah. And the way I look at it with Chris Rock's situation, you reap what you sow. What I would tell my son or my daughter in that situation is always be careful what you say. You never know what someone is going through. Always, kind of be careful what you say to people, what you say about people, because you just never know. You never know what someone is dealing with, something. You don't know if, you could say a joke to one person and they may laugh. You say a joke to another person and they take it a totally different way because they're going through something personal with them. And I think the comedians, they have a great, gift, and they also have a great responsibility to be able to say things that make people laugh, and not necessarily demean people. Personally, I didn't think Chris Rock's joke was, that harsh for him to be slapped. However,
I've heard worse.
Yeah, I've definitely heard worse. I've heard worse from Chris Rock, but I didn't think that joke was that harsh, know. But at the same time, I think there's a learning experience. I think for Chris, he hasn't come out publicly and said a whole lot yet. But I think that, if when he does say something, I think that he would have the perspective of learning something from that particular joke, right?
Yeah.
On to Will Smith. If I'm having a conversation with my son and he's the Will Smith of a situation, what I'm telling my son is your actions have consequences. Now, here's this guy who was at the top of his game, at the top of his career, on probably one of the biggest nights of his career, and he made the decision to walk up on stage and smack another man and yell out some profanities to this man. And, he was allowed to continue to sit there in the audience. And, fast forward to today, it's just recently come out that he's been banned for 10 years from the academy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's whether if you agree with the punishment, I think it's kind of harsh for 10 years, but I wasn't making that decision, of course. But your actions have consequences. Think of how many times, how many brothers we know or know of, or we've heard about these situations to where these guys get upset, and in the instant they make a decision that changes the rest of their lives. They end up in jail. Some may end up dead. So on and so forth, man. And you just got to be so careful. Kid, you know this. You got to be so careful of the decisions that you make, because you don't know who's around, who's watching. And sometimes people are just waiting for you to slip up, so they can jump on you. And, when I look back at that particular thing, I look at it like this. He smacked the right one. And I'm using air quotes, because there are certain comedians, there are certain people that wouldn't have just stood there and been professional, even on that stage, as Chris Rock did. He turned his back on this man and walked off. He could have easily been an easy target to get, snuffed in the back of the head, or drop kicked or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and, you just got to be careful with that stuff too. Like, I understand the whole notion of protecting your wife, protecting your loved ones. I get that. As a father, that's one of the things that we talk about on here just about every episode. A father is supposed to protect his kids and protect his home, protect his wife, all that stuff. So, I get that. I totally understand defending your wife, defending your wife's honor, protecting your kids. I get that. But there's a time and a place for everything. I probably would have handled that situation differently. If I thought that joke was that bad, maybe for me, I probably would have, he could have yelled from the audience. He could have, excuse me, he could have waited to see him after the show, been there saying, check him personally.
Yeah.
He could say, hey, you said this about my wife. Do you know she has alopecia? Okay, what's up with that joke that you said then? I need you to explain it to me. Gave him he could have given Chris Rock the opportunity to either double down on what he said, or to clarify, hey, look, I didn't mean anything by that. I didn't notice she has alopecia, or I meant that as just kind of in a different way, or what have you, because like I said, these guys get paid to come on stage and to joke around. And we've seen it time and time again, year after year, not just in the Oscars, but we've seen it in other award shows. We've seen it in comedy shows. I know people, you and I, we've been to a comedy show together. Our wives and us, we went to a comedy show. We went to go see Chris Tucker one time.
Yeah.
And those comedians, they joke with people in the audience. Yeah. We went to go see
Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart one time. Yeah. So these things happen, man. And people are going to joke with people in the audience. And I was really, really disappointed with Will Smith and his actions on that night, because we had never seen him get to that point, at least publicly. And, that's one of the things that I would say to my son if he was in this situation.
Yeah.
Hey, I understand, you love your wife, or you love your girl or whatever, but slow your roll sometimes. There's a different way of handling certain things, right? Also, if my daughter is in a Jada Pinkett Smith situation, I'm not going to share all my personal thoughts, how I look at Jada. I'll say that for another day. But I've heard plenty of men, and which I can attest to this myself, but plenty of men will give advice to their daughters about how to treat their men. Yes, men are called to be providers and protectors of their, of their home, but women also should be protectors of their men.
Thank you.
And so I always say, we've said this before, sometimes ladies, be his peace. Okay. Be his peace. You know, I think men are very simple. I know I am. You know, it's you know, be there for me uh physically. You know, I like a warm cooked meal sometime. You know, you know what I'm saying? You've been working all day, you know.
Yeah.
A good meal, you know, and my wife, she does that. You know, she'll cook and I cook for her as well. It's not one-sided thing or whatever. You know, there's sexual needs, you know, as being in a relationship with your wife or with your spouse. And then there's also that emotional, you know, needs that a man has. And I look at it as, you know, being his peace, being respectful of him and to him.
Yeah.
And I look at it like this, you know, in that situation, I know for a fact, my wife, I feel like your wife, and I feel like plenty of other wives would have stopped their husband from going on stage to do that. I just felt like, you know, Jada, she could have handled that better from that perspective. And I would tell my daughter, hey, look, you know, yeah, you want your man, you want your husband to defend you, but sometimes he may get emotional, but you got to protect him as well. You know, be a covering for him too, so that he doesn't go out and make a crazy decision. Because a lot of times, sometimes these women can hype up situations when you're already emotional, and you know, they can egg on a situation between two guys when the woman can just say, hey, calm down, babe, let's roll. You know, it ain't that serious, you know. And you know, so that's how I look at all three of those situations, man. And you know, like I said, again, you reap what you sow. And you know, my wife, she's in social work, and you know, she said something to me that I thought was pretty profound. And it was something very simple, but to me, it was profound. But behaviors influence behaviors.
Yeah.
Think about behaviors influence behaviors. And that was very indicative of that situation on that night with those three individuals, that their behaviors influenced other behaviors. You know, the whole situation could have probably been avoided.
Yeah.
But you know, people got in their feelings. People thought that they could joke about certain things, and people failed to you know, protect their spouse. And you know, those behaviors influenced other behaviors, you know. And so when you reap what you sow, you sometimes, like I said, man, you just got to take a step back and think, what's the best thing to do here? You know, take a second to breathe and then make a decision. You don't have to make a decision on the instant just like that. So that's what I say to that. What do you have for reap what you sow?
One thing that I did not like, and I'm gonna address all three people just like you did. But starting off with Chris Rock, one thing I did not like, comedians are comedians. They're always on that line on whether they should say something or whether maybe that's going too far. I don't think that line is clearly defined, you know, in anything. I mean, we grew up watching Dave Chappelle. He lives on that line. Yeah. And even now, he's taking his stand-up to a whole different level and really confronting a lot of social issues that a lot of people don't want to touch and don't want to mention and don't want to talk about. But he's giving his opinion. And to be quite honest, there are some truths to what he's saying. I know he's making a joke out of a lot of it, but it's the reality. So yeah, they do get up to that line. Sometimes that line is crossed. And if you're in that industry, you know what comes with it. But at the same time, you know, they are human beings as well. One thing I did not like about people and what they were saying about Chris Rock was saying, you know, that couldn't have been me. Or if he had to slap me, that would have been the last person he would have slapped. But I take a second just to think, Chris Rock really took one for the culture. He really took one, you know, for us as human beings and for us as African Americans as well. The way that could have turned if he had have came back and attacked him and they were up there fighting on stage, do you think that would have looked better than what transpired?
Yeah.
He took the slap. I mean, honestly, a lot of us really, after he did that, we were like, are they playing? we didn't really realize, I know I didn't really realize that it was really serious until Will got back down and said what he said when he got back to his seat about keep my wife's name out your mouth. And then he said it again. Then I was like, oh, this is really serious.
Yeah.
But the way Chris really reacted to it, it was like, is this a skit or something? You know, this is early April Fools or whatever. You know?
Right.
So I just feel like, thank God he didn't react, you know, because that would have looked bad on everybody for them to be up there fighting, you know, at an award show of that magnitude.
Right.
You know, I just don't want that narrative to go around that Chris is being a punk. I think Chris knew he had a whole lot to lose. I don't think anybody would have blamed him for attacking him, but with him taking that stand, I looked at him more as, man, you know what? Chris was thinking in that situation.
Yeah.
Because Will had lost it.
Yeah. And that takes restraint, man. You know, a lot of people may call him a punk or whatever. You know, some people, I haven't seen much of that, but you know, some people may think that he's that way, but it takes restraint to hold in your emotions sometimes and to not do what you really want to do.
Yeah. Because he slapped him, but his life really wasn't threatened at that point. He didn't have to, you know, necessarily defend himself in that moment. I get it. Somebody put their hand on you in any kind of way on the street, you gonna go at them, you know. And I don't blame anybody that would have reacted in that way. That's one thing about it. You can say whatever you want to out your mouth, but when you put your hands on me, that gives me the opportunity and the right to put my hands on you. So I think he went beyond what we call being a stand-up guy in that moment. And I just really didn't like how everybody was saying, well, you know, that couldn't happen to me. I didn't like that because you don't know what you would have done in that situation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You didn't work so hard for your career or whatever. And a lot of us, even on our jobs, I'm pretty sure most of us have been on our jobs and somebody has said something crazy to them on the job or, you know, did something or even approached them acting like they was going to attack them in a physical manner or whatever. But when you on your job, it's just different.
Right.
You know, it's like, no, I'm not going to go here with you. I'm going to do A, B, C, and D. I'm going to go with the protocol like I'm supposed to because I'm trying to keep my job. And I think Chris was thinking about the money that he was going to make, the money that he's making right now. I think he really took a lot of that under consideration. Now, when I think about Will, straight up, Will just lost it, man.
Yeah,
he lost it. And I can't blame him for losing it because I think we've all gotten to that point where we've lost it before, but he just lost it on national television, you know, and one of the biggest, you know, award shows there is. He lost it. You know, some of us lose it on text message. Some of us lose it over the phone with a loved one. Some of us lose it, you know, in a public setting or whatever, but it's not broadcast across the whole country. You know, I know people right now that they done got to argue at a football game and hauled off and hit somebody and there was no consequences that they had to pay for or anything like that in that instant. But Will just was in the wrong place at the wrong time deciding to lose it. I can't blame him for losing it. I think we've all been there where you wanted to put your hands on somebody that hadn't put their hands on you yet, but they said something verbally to you. But what I had a problem with is we cannot let what people say out of their mouths dictate what we do physically.
Yeah.
Like that's a problem when we let words, when we become puppets to the words of what people say. That's control. They are controlling you. So I can come and say something to you that is offensive, and then I'm going to get a reaction out of you where you get to the point where you want to put your hands on people. We don't need to get to that point in society, man. That's bad. That's really bad. And this is almost what I would say. He's what we would call an elder in our community. You think about it. He's 50 plus, right?
Yeah.
At 50 years old, you should be at a point where you're not making decisions like that. So not trying to, paint him to be a bad person. That's not what I'm saying, but it's like we have to, as fathers, there needs to be a standard that we have to set that we can't do that, man. That's not a good look. You don't want to be out with your wife and something happens at the restaurant where the waiter or the waitress says something smart and then you got to get up and start yelling because you feel like you got to defend your wife. No. Yeah. And your kids sitting there watching that? Yeah. No. You can't get upset with your baby mama and then y'all just start arguing right there in front of the kids. No.
Yeah.
You got to keep your cool at that moment.
Yeah.
It was call them back later and have, handle like adults.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, you hit the nail on the head, man. When you said that, that he got controlled at that moment. He did, and it's really sad that he let some words get him to the place where he had to feel like he had to put his hands on somebody else. We would, if our kids did that, if your 5-year-old did that, we would be, probably scolding them, saying, hey, right. You cannot do that, And here we are talking about a grown man who did the same thing, and he's paying the price for it now. But I tell you, what's very disappointing to me though as well are the people who are openly advocating for what Will Smith did, as if he didn't do anything wrong, and I can't fathom that. Like, it's some people I've seen them on social media. Some of them are are top echelon celebrities. Others are, just regular Joe Schmo. And they're saying like as if Will Smith did nothing wrong. And that is mind-boggling to me. That man walked up there and assaulted somebody. Truth be told, whatever, however you want to, that's what he did. And yeah, you can't do that in a civilized society. I don't blame him for getting upset over the quote unquote joke, but how you reacted to it, you didn't have to react that way, you know? And like you said, who knows what you're going to do in a certain situation, but you can't let people control you that way just with some words. You know? You can't do that. You can't. And I thought about it, and going to Jada now, I thought about it from the point of view, I said, man, look, okay, you're a girlfriend, that's something. If you a baby mama to this guy, that's something. If you just his friend, y'all just dating, that's something else. Mm-hmm. Ma'am, you are a wife. Yeah. There are some things that come with being a wife to this man. Your futures are intertwined. Everything that you guys make in this world together will be left to you and his children. Right. Y'all are intertwined. Y'all are linked together. However he acts in public, that is a reflection of you. Y'all are a pair of scissors. Y'all are together, working together through life. If he makes a fool of himself, he's making a fool of you. Like, I could not understand how she let that ride. And man, it went back to me in a situation that I was in. Me and my wife, we were at a wedding and we were hanging out outside. Some people were drinking or whatever. You always got that one guy that's drinking too much and can't hold his liquor, beer, or whatever the case is. You look, you get introduced to those guys in college, but some of them they never can control their alcohol. And he was just out there just having something smart to say to everybody, just running off at his mouth and just saying this. And he said something to me, then he said something to somebody else. I'm like, all right, I'm letting him ride. He came back and said something again. I let it ride. He came back and said something to me again. So at this point, I'm standing up
And I know myself. You got a problem with me. That's my thing, right? That's what I do. You got a problem with me. That's I'm gonna do the clap. And this is your chance to fix it or double down on what you said.
Right.
And if you double down, then I don't know what's gonna happen. So I'm at that point where I'm about to lose it. So I inch up. I'm about to get out my seat. My wife is sitting beside me. We're outside now. Wedding's over. And she gently put her hand on my back. And I stopped and I sat back. That's all it took.
Right.
After all of that stuff, and I was angry to the point that I was about to tell him off. And whatever came next was gonna come next because you're a man.
Right.
It's an ego that we deal with a certain amount of ego, right?
Right.
But it just took that gentle touch on my back. She didn't have to say, honey, sit down. She didn't have to say, baby, it's not worth it. She didn't have to say anything. She just put her hand right there on my back. And it was like it just calmed me down and I just sat there. And I was so glad that she did that because if I had gotten a physical altercation with somebody, I hadn't drank anything. I wasn't drunk. And I got to fighting with a drunk man and beat him pretty bad. You know, a drunk man can't fight. Would that have looked good on me?
Yeah.
To do something like that.
Yeah.
And I can think of another time we were on vacation and looked like, you know how you're on vacation and you're driving and you take the time and it looked like a guy had pulled up beside me and had something smart to say and I rolled up the window. And then I got behind him and started riding and, you know, I was going to my hotel or whatever. He's trying to speed off. He done ran through the light and made a turn trying to get away from me. And I'm saying, what if I had a problem with myself? Me and my wife always had we got our life, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to go home. We're going to have a good time. We're going to, we happy, man. We're on vacation. When I'm going to get upset with you, I'm going to chase you all the way to your hotel so we can get to fighting.
On vacation.
Yeah, and then something bad happens. You see, we laughing about it, but what if I had to chase the man just because he said something slick? And I got to fighting, and let's say something bad happened, where a gun got pulled out or whatever.
Right.
And then boom. I'm on vacation. I really didn't want to get into a situation, but now I'm in a situation and now I got to go away from my wife and my son for God knows how long.
Right.
Man, cooler heads need to prevail.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
Yep.
I mean, really. And early on in my wife and I's relationship, I saw a cartoon and it was of the Hulk, and it was a drawing. And the Hulk was, you know how when he gets big, he's green and he's really big, and and he was down on his knees, and he was had his head down a little bit like that, and then it had a girl right there, and you could tell that the girl had calmed him down. You know, when he Hulk, he wild, but when the girl came and she kind of put her hand on his head or whatever and just calmed him down. And I sent it to my wife. I said, that's what you do for me. As a wife, you're supposed to make him better.
Yeah.
So all this talk about that's how my husband is supposed to take up for me, or that's how my boyfriend's supposed to take up for me. If that's how you feel, then fine. But me personally, I can't get with that. You're supposed to make me better. Now somebody said something verbally to you and I went and fought. And now this man all bloody laying out on the floor and all that stuff. And then we're going to walk out and you supposed to be happy that stuff turn you on? Nah, I ain't with that. And I saw
it's plenty of people dead or in jail over trying to defend somebody, situations like that.
Over some foolishness, man. Over some foolishness. That's just straight up foolishness.
Right.
If you don't want nobody to say nothing, and we know this because we've been to comedy shows before. If you don't want nothing said about you, don't go.
Yeah. And especially don't sit on the front row.
Right. So I don't know, man. That's my take on it. I just feel like you put good out there into the atmosphere, good is gonna come back. You put bad out there, it's gonna come back. You know, if you looking for a friend, you need to show yourself friendly.
Yeah.
If you looking for money, then you need to start giving more.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel. I feel like all of that. I feel like it's a spirit that goes with all of that. And
you're right.
And you got to stay on top of yourself and making sure that you're doing that. And sometimes situations come like this and it makes us think, because I was funny enough, I was at another I was on outing on yesterday, and once again, you always got that guy that's been drinking a little too much. He comes over, try to have a conversation, starts downing everybody, where they're from and all this stuff. And you know what I did? I went the other direction. Because you get that wisdom.
Right.
You've been through things, you get that wisdom, and you already know where it's going. I know how I am. He doesn't know how I am. I'm going to slide over here.
Yeah.
Y'all can keep on talking to him if you want to, but I ain't got time for it. I got a wife and a son and a baby girl on the way that I'm going home for. I ain't got time to get caught up into this. Go home, bro.
Yep. You know, I also look at this situation. I mean, let this be a learning experience for everybody, even though you didn't necessarily go through it, you know, yourself, but learn from this, you know, learn from their situation, what they did and what they didn't do, you know. And then I also think I just want to touch on this one part here. You know, if you're like in a Will Smith situation, you know, and we've all heard rumors for years about Will and Jada and their relationships and all that. That's a whole nother thing, right?
Yeah.
But I heard someone say that at that moment, they felt like Will was saying, when he screamed out from the audience, they felt like he was basically saying that to the world, right? And what I would say is, if you're in a situation, man, and you're under that much pressure,
right,
you know, and under that much scrutiny, you know, sometimes, man, you may just need to take some time for yourself and just do some self-reflection. Sometimes you may need to even seek some professional counseling or whatever, because again, like I said, that wasn't characteristic of the Will that we normally see, right?
Right.
And
it hurt, bro. It hurt watching him growing up, and you just feel like Will is just this way. And I really don't feel, and I don't want anybody to take it the wrong way, I really don't feel like Will is a bad person. I feel like he got in a situation and he lost it.
Yeah.
He lost it.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with seeking help for if you got, you know, anger problems, or if you're dealing with stuff that, you know, nobody else knows about. And I mean, just, you know, maybe get some help, you know?
Yeah.
But again, like you said, man, you know, you put good out there, you get good back, you know, so you reap what you sow. So.
Yeah. Well, you got anything else?
I don't, bro.
All right. Well, we thank you guys for listening to Dad Roots podcast with Mario E and Kid. We want you guys to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Facebook and download the podcast. Catch you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Dad Rules podcast with your hosts, Mario E and Kid. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, follow and like us on Facebook and Instagram. You can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Breaker, and Player FM. Till next time.